Well, we study how bacteria manipulate the eukaryotic cell to create specialized compartments inside those cells that allow bacteria to typically avoid cellular defenses and replicate intracellularly. So one of the pathogens that we study in the lab is called Legionella pneumophila, which can cause the human disease known as Legionnaire's disease. And this organism is unique in that it can avoid fusion with the degradative organelle in the cell called the lysosome once it's internalized by a macrophage, which is a cell that has been evolved to eat bacteria when they enter the body and destroy them. So what we've learned is that this particular bacterial pathogen has a repertoire of over 300 different proteins that it has evolved to inject directly into the cytosol, into the cell of the macrophage during infection, that allows it to manipulate that compartment so that it avoids fusion with the lysosome, and it interacts with another organelle within the cell known as the endoplasmic reticulum. And by doing this, it can create a unique type of compartment that's very permissive for bacterial replication and is sequestered away from the degradative capacity of the host cell. So it's really a very unique cell biological mechanism that allows the bacteria to do this. Well, bacteria have small genomes. They replicate very quickly, and therefore they can evolve very rapidly. Whereas humans, we evolve on a much slower time scale. So what we see in bacterial pathogenesis is that the eukaryotic hosts are constantly evolving new mechanisms to defend themselves against bacteria. But bacteria are often quick to evolve their own counter defenses to those mechanisms. So what we're witnessing in our studies and other studies is that there's a molecular arms race that is going on between eukaryotic hosts, us humans, and bacteria that are trying to evolve new mechanisms to utilize the nutrients that we're capable of providing them. Now, typically, that results in coevolution where most of our bacteria are beneficial. So our common flora, known as the microbiome, provide very beneficial functions to their human hosts. But those bacteria have co-evolved with the humans over tens of thousands of years. So the adaptations on the part of the host and the adaptations on the part of the bacteria have led to a molecular détente, if you will. Whereas pathogens tend to be new organisms that are finding their way into the human population. And therefore, they're not in balance with the human immune response. And oftentimes, that can result in either the immune response not detecting them correctly, and therefore they can do significant damage to the host, or sometimes what happens is the host responds too vigorously to the organism. And that results in a very robust inflammatory response that can also cause damage to the host. So what we're trying to understand are what are those mechanisms that are used by both the bacteria that allow them to manipulate the host, as well as how has the host evolved mechanisms to counteract those defenses, and how are adapted pathogens that have co-evolved with humans, different from opportunistic pathogens, which are new organisms that are encountering humans and can cause serious disease. So there is a tendency to use antibiotics either prophylactically or inappropriately. But having said that, I think we need new antibiotics clearly for certain infections that are caused by bacteria that are now developing resistance to multiple antibiotics. But we also need to better understand how the immune response really controls bacteria and why the immune response can sometimes cause damage to the host in response to the bacteria. Because if we could just limit this damage during the treatment of infection, the morbidity and mortality that are caused by some of these bacterial pathogens could be reduced and allow antibiotics a better opportunity to eliminate the bacteria from the human host.